In the heart of the beautiful land of Umudike, a small and peaceful Igbo village, lived a girl named Amara. She had bright eyes that sparkled like the morning sun, and her laughter could make even the oldest elders smile. Amara was known for her kindness, and everyone in the village loved her. Not too far from Amara's home was the house of Obinna. He was a brave boy with a strong spirit, always ready to help others. He had a head full of curly hair, skin as smooth as chocolate, and eyes that shined with excitement and joy. Obinna was always busy, running through the fields or playing with the other boys. But what no one knew was that Amara and Obinna shared a secret that would soon change everything. Amara and Obinna were best friends. Every day after their chores, they would meet under the big iroko tree at the edge of the village. There, they would play games, tell stories, and laugh until their bellies hurt. They were inseparable, like the river and the fish. But there was one thing they both knew: the elders of Umudike did not allow boys and girls to be too close unless they were married. The elders said it was the village's way, and everyone had to obey. Amara and Obinna didn't understand why, but they loved spending time together too much to let the rules stop them. So, they decided to keep their friendship a secret. They met in hidden places, always making sure no one was watching. One evening, as the sun was setting and painting the sky in colors of orange and pink, Amara and Obinna sat by the river, watching the water sparkle under the dying light. The wind began to blow softly, whispering secrets through the trees. "Obinna," Amara said quietly, "do you think the elders will ever understand our friendship?" Obinna looked at the water, his thoughts deep. "I don't know, Amara," he replied. "But I believe that love is stronger than any rule. Maybe one day, they will see that too." As they sat there, they didn't notice that someone was watching them from behind the bushes, someone who would soon tell the village elders what they had seen. The next day, as Amara was helping her mother with the cooking, she was called to the elders' hut. Her heart pounded as she walked through the village, the villagers whispering as she passed by. Inside the hut, the elders sat in a circle, their faces stern and serious. Amara, the oldest elder, began, his voice deep and commanding, "We have heard troubling news. You and Obinna have been seen spending too much time together. This is against our village rules." Amara's hands trembled as she tried to explain, "But elders, Obinna is my friend. We do nothing wrong." The elders shook their heads. "In our village, boys and girls must keep their distance unless they are promised to each other. You must end this friendship, or there will be consequences." Amara felt tears welling up in her eyes. How could they understand the bond she shared with Obinna? That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about the elders' warning. When the moon was high in the sky, she slipped out of her house and ran to the iroko tree. She had to see Obinna. Obinna was already there, waiting for her. "Amara, what happened? You look so worried." Amara told him everything, her voice trembling. "They told me to end our friendship, Obinna. But how can I do that? You're my best friend." Obinna took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "We can't let them decide for us, Amara. We'll keep meeting, but we must be more careful. No one can know." They made a promise to each other that night, a promise to never let anyone tear them apart. As the days passed, Amara and Obinna's friendship grew even stronger. They shared more than just laughter and games, they shared dreams, hopes, and secrets. They began to realize that what they felt for each other was more than just friendship. It was something deeper, something special. But with this growing love came more danger. They knew that if the elders found out, they would be punished, and their families might be disgraced. Yet, they couldn't help but be drawn to each other, like the moth to the flame. They continued to meet in secret, their love blossoming in the shadows, away from prying eyes. One day, the village of Umudike was alive with excitement. The annual festival was about to begin, with music, dancing, and feasting. Everyone was dressed in their finest clothes, and the air was filled with the sound of drums and laughter. Amara and Obinna couldn't wait to see each other at the festival. They knew they had to be careful, but the thought of spending time together in such a joyful setting was too tempting to resist. They met near the village square, where the dancers were performing. Amara wore a beautiful dress made of colorful fabric, and Obinna was dressed in a matching outfit. They danced together, their movements graceful and in sync, but always aware of the watchful eyes around them. As the festival continued, the sun began to set, and the villagers gathered around the bonfire for the evening storytelling. Amara and Obinna found a quiet spot at the edge of the crowd, where they could enjoy the warmth of the fire and the stories without being too noticed. But as the storyteller began his tale, something unexpected happened. The person who had seen Amara and Obinna by the river earlier stood up and spoke. "Elders, I have something to say," the person announced loudly. The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to the speaker. Amara and Obinna's hearts raced, they knew this could be bad. "I saw Amara and Obinna together by the river, alone, after sunset. They were too close, breaking the rules of our village. I think they have been seeing each other secretly for a long time." Gasps filled the air, and the villagers began to murmur among themselves. The elders, who were sitting by the fire, frowned deeply, their expressions filled with disappointment and anger. "Amara, Obinna, is this true?" the chief elder demanded, his voice booming across the square. Amara and Obinna looked at each other, their hearts heavy with fear. They had promised to keep their friendship a secret, but now it was out in the open for everyone to see. The village square was quiet, except for the crackling of the bonfire. The chief elder stepped forward, his face stern and unforgiving. "You both know the rules of our village," he said, his voice echoing through the night. "Boys and girls must not be close unless they are promised to each other. You have broken our sacred tradition." Amara felt tears well up in her eyes, and Obinna clenched his fist, trying to stay strong. They had never meant to hurt anyone, they just wanted to be together. "We will decide your punishment in the morning," the chief elder declared. "Until then, you must go home and stay away from each other." The villagers began to disperse, whispering among themselves. Amara and Obinna were left standing alone, the weight of the village's judgment heavy on their shoulders. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the thatched roof, tears rolling down her cheeks. She missed Obinna, and the thought of never seeing him again made her heart ache. Across the village, Obinna was also awake, sitting by his window and looking out at the moonlit night. He thought about Amara and the promise they had made to each other. He didn't know what the morning would bring, but he knew one thing for sure: his love for Amara was stronger than any rule. Both Amara and Obinna knew that whatever happened next, they couldn't let the village tear them apart. They would find a way to be together, no matter the cost. The next morning, as the sun began to rise over Umudike, Amara and Obinna knew that the time had come. They would soon face the elders and hear their fate. But before that, they had to talk. They had to figure out what to do. Amara sneaked out of her house early, before anyone else was awake, and ran to the secret spot where they always met, the old iroko tree. Obinna was already there, waiting for her, his eyes filled with worry but also with hope. "Amara," Obinna said softly, taking her hands in his, "I've been thinking all night. The elders will try to keep us apart, but we can't let that happen. We must run away together, far from the village where no one can find us." Amara's eyes widened. "But where will we go? What will we do?" "We'll find a place where we can be together without anyone telling us it's wrong," Obinna assured her. "We'll start a new life, just the two of us." Amara hesitated. The thought of leaving everything she knew behind was scary, but the thought of losing Obinna was even scarier. "Okay," she whispered, let's do it." They hugged each other tightly, knowing this was the only way to stay together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the village of Umudike gathered once more in the square. The elders were ready to deliver their judgments on Amara and Obinna. The chief elder stood before the villagers, his face as stern as ever. "Amara and Obinna," he began, "you have broken the rules of our village, rules that have been followed for generations. For this, you must be punished. We have decided that you must never see each other again. If you do, your families will be shamed, and you will be banished from Umudike forever." The crowd murmured in agreement, but Amara and Obinna stood silent. They had already made their decision. They wouldn't stay in Umudike, where their love was forbidden. They would leave before the elders could stop them. As the villagers began to disperse, Amara and Obinna slipped away quietly, avoiding the curious eyes of their neighbors. They ran through the fields, past the river where they had spent so many happy moments, and towards the thick forest that lay beyond the village. The forest was dark and mysterious, with tall trees and thick underbrush. But Amara and Obinna were not afraid. They knew that if they could make it through the forest, they would find freedom on the other side. They ran hand in hand, their hearts pounding with both fear and excitement. The world ahead was unknown, but at least they would face it together. After hours of running, Amara and Obinna finally emerged from the forest. They found themselves on a hilltop overlooking a vast, beautiful landscape, rolling hills, sparkling rivers, and a distant village that they had never seen before. "This is it," Obinna said, his voice filled with hope. "This is where we'll start our new life." Amara looked out at the land before them and smiled. It was a new beginning, a place where they could be free to love each other without fear or judgment. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but as long as they were together, they could face anything. They walked down the hill, hand in hand, ready to build a life filled with love and happiness. Back in Umudike, the villagers soon realized that Amara and Obinna were gone. Some were relieved, thinking that the troublemakers had finally left. But others, especially the younger ones, began to question the old rules. "Why can't boys and girls be friends?" they asked. "Why can't love be free?" The elders were troubled by these questions, but they had no answers. As time went on, the story of Amara and Obinna became a legend, passed down from one generation to the next. It became a story not of disobedience, but of love, love that was strong enough to break the chains of tradition and bring about change. And so, in the village of Umudike, the seeds of a new way of thinking were planted, all because of the forbidden love of two brave hearts. Years passed, and the story of Amara and Obinna became a part of the village's history. But it was not just a tale of forbidden love, it was a lesson for everyone. It taught the villagers that love is a powerful force, one that cannot be bound by rules or traditions. Amara and Obinna were never seen again in Umudike, but their love lived on in the hearts of the people. The village began to change, slowly but surely, becoming a place where love was cherished and celebrated, no matter where it was found. And so, the love of Amara and Obinna, the village love that broke all rules, became a love that lasted forever.